There's something very few men are told when they reach your age. Something quiet, almost hidden beneath years of experience, heartbreak, and wisdom. And that is this: attraction is no longer loud. It's not dramatic, and it certainly doesn't look like it did when you were young. It becomes subtle, almost invisible to the untrained eye. But if you know where to look, if you understand the deeper psychology of a woman's behavior, then you'll realize something powerful when a woman truly wants you. The signs don't lie. They never lie. Not her words, not her silence, not even her smallest actions. Because desire, real desire, always finds a way to reveal itself. And the first sign, the one most men miss, is not in what she says, but in how she makes space for you in her life. You see, a woman who is not interested will always be busy, always distracted, always somewhere else mentally. But a woman who wants you will create time, even when she has none. She will respond, she will remember, she will return. Not because she has to, but because she feels pulled toward you. And that pull is something science has studied for years. It's emotional investment, it's dopamine, it's attention focus. When her mind starts choosing you without effort, that's not coincidence. That's attraction. And then comes the second sign, one that older men often misunderstand. She becomes softer around you, not weaker, not submissive, but more open, more relaxed. Her guard lowers. Her voice changes slightly, her expressions become warmer, because deep down, her body feels safe in your presence. And safety for a woman is the foundation of desire. Not looks, not money, not status, but emotional safety. And here's where most men fail. They try to impress instead of connecting. But a woman who wants you doesn't need to be impressed. She needs to feel understood. And when she starts sharing small details about her day, her thoughts, even things that seem meaningless, that's not random conversation. That's her inviting you into her world. And men who understand this don't ignore it. They lean into it, they listen, they respond, they become present, because presence at your age is more powerful than charm ever was. And there was a man once, in his early 60s, who believed his time had passed. He thought attraction belonged to younger men, louder men, men with more energy. But he met a woman at a quiet gathering. Nothing special, just a simple evening. And at first, he didn't notice anything unusual. She was polite, kind, nothing more. But then he realized something. She kept finding reasons to be near him. Small, almost invisible reasons. Asking him simple questions, laughing a little longer at his words, maintaining eye contact just a second more than usual. And he ignored it. Because like many men, he believed, why would she be interested in me? But the truth was, she already was. And over time, her actions became clearer. She remembered things he said days ago. She checked on him when he was quiet. She adjusted her schedule just to have conversations that meant nothing on the surface, but everything underneath. And one day, he finally understood. Attraction doesn't shout, it whispers. And only those who are calm enough, aware enough, can hear it. And that's the third sign. You feel it in her consistency. Not intensity, not drama, but consistency. She shows up again and again, without confusion, without games, because a woman who wants you doesn't want to risk losing you. And science supports this. Consistent behavior is one of the strongest indicators of genuine emotional interest. People invest where they feel value. And if she is investing her time, her attention, her emotional energy into you, then she has already made a choice, even if she hasn't said it out loud. And then there's another sign, one that many overlook because it feels too simple. She notices you, truly notices you. Not just your appearance, but your mood, your energy, your silence. She can sense when something is off and she responds. Maybe with a question, maybe with a kind word, maybe just by being there. Because when a woman is emotionally drawn to a man, her awareness of him increases. It's not effort, it's instinct. Her mind starts tracking you. And this is something no one can fake for long. And finally, the most undeniable sign. She makes you feel wanted without saying it directly. Through her actions, her tone, her presence, because real attraction doesn't rely on words. It reveals itself in behavior. And here's the truth. Most men learn too late. If you are confused about whether she wants you, the answer is usually no. Because when a woman truly wants you, there is a clarity. Not loud, not obvious, but clear enough that you feel it in your gut, in your instincts, in the way she shows up in your life. And at your age, this clarity is a gift. You don't need to chase, you don't need to prove. You only need to recognize. Because the power you have now is not in trying harder. It's in seeing deeper, understanding better, and choosing wisely. And when you do, you stop wasting time on uncertainty, and you start recognizing the quiet, undeniable truth: when a woman wants you, she doesn't leave you guessing. She shows you, again and again, in ways that science, psychology, and human nature all agree on. And once you understand this, everything changes. Thank you for watching. And if you stay with me for a moment longer, there is something even deeper that most men never fully understand, especially after 60, because life teaches you to be careful, to protect your heart, to avoid misreading signals. But the truth is, when a woman truly wants you, her behavior begins to align in ways that go beyond simple interest. It becomes almost instinctive, almost biological. And this is where science becomes undeniable, because attraction is not just emotional, it is neurological. It is chemical. It is rooted in how her mind and body respond to your presence. And one of the clearest signs is this: she begins to prioritize how you feel without even realizing she is doing it. She becomes aware of your reactions, your comfort, your mood, and she adjusts herself in subtle ways. Not to impress you, but to stay connected to you. And that level of adjustment is something a woman only gives when she feels emotionally invested, because the brain naturally mirrors and it adapts to people it values. And this is called emotional attunement. And it cannot be faked for long, because it requires genuine interest, and you will notice it in the smallest moments. The way she slightly leans in when you speak, the way her eyes soften when you share something personal, the way she pauses before responding, choosing her words more carefully, because now your opinion matters to her. Your presence matters to her, and that is not something she does for everyone. And then there is another powerful sign, one that many older men overlook because it feels unfamiliar, and that is her willingness to let you see her imperfections. You see, a woman who is not interested will maintain a certain distance, a certain image, always controlled, always composed. But a woman who wants you will slowly drop that perfection. She will show you her real thoughts, her small insecurities, even her doubts, because she is no longer trying to perform. She is trying to connect. And vulnerability is one of the strongest indicators of emotional attraction, because it requires trust. And trust is never given without reason. It is earned through how you make her feel, through your consistency, your calmness, your ability to listen without judgment. And this is where your age becomes your greatest advantage, because you are no longer competing with noise. You are offering something rare: stability, presence, understanding, and these are qualities that trigger deep emotional attraction in a woman's mind, far more than superficial charm ever could. And I remember a story of a man, not very different from you, who had lived most of his life believing that love had a time limit, that after a certain age, things like attraction, desire, connection, they slowly fade away. But one afternoon, while sitting in a quiet park, he met a woman who completely changed that belief. She wasn't trying to impress him. She wasn't overly expressive, but there was something in the way she engaged with him. Something subtle, something consistent. She listened to him in a way he hadn't experienced in years. She asked questions that showed she was paying attention. She laughed not loudly, but sincerely. And over time, he began to notice patterns. She would remember the smallest details about his stories. She would check in on him after days of silence. She would find gentle ways to reconnect without forcing anything. And at first, he doubted it. He told himself he was imagining things, that maybe she was just being kind. But kindness fades when it is not supported by interest. Consistency does not, and that is the difference. And one day, as they sat together again, he realized something that changed everything for him. She wasn't just talking to him, she was choosing him, again and again, through her actions, through her attention, through her quiet effort. And that is something no one can fake over time. Because real attraction sustains itself. It doesn't disappear when things become routine. It deepens, it stabilizes, it becomes more intentional. And that brings us to another undeniable sign. She begins to include you in her future thinking, not in a dramatic way, not in big declarations, but in small, almost invisible mentions. She talks about things we could do, places we might go, moments that haven't happened yet but include you naturally. And this is powerful, because the human brain only imagines a future with people it feels safe and connected to. And if she is placing you in that future, even casually, then emotionally, she has already created space for you in her life. And that is not something a woman does lightly, especially not at a mature age, where experiences have already taught her the value of emotional investment. And then there is one final sign, perhaps the most honest one of all. She becomes consistent not only in presence, but in effort. She reaches out, she responds. She maintains connection without being asked. Because when a woman truly wants you, staying connected to you does not feel like effort to her. It feels natural, almost necessary. And that is where most men finally understand the truth. Attraction is not about chasing, it is about recognizing. It is about seeing the patterns, the behaviors, the consistency that reveal what words often hide. And once you understand this, you stop second guessing. You stop overthinking. You stop wasting your energy on uncertainty because you begin to see clearly, and clarity is power, especially at your age, where time is valuable and peace matters more than confusion. And when you learn to recognize these signs, you don't just understand women better, you understand human nature better, you understand connection on a deeper level, and most importantly, you understand your own worth because you realize that the right woman does not make you question yourself. She reveals herself through actions that align again and again, quietly, consistently, truthfully. And once you see that, you will never unsee it, and your entire perspective will shift. Now, there is something even more profound, something that most men only realize when it's almost too late. But you are here, listening, understanding, and that already puts you ahead of so many others. Because the final truth about attraction at your age is not just about recognizing her signs. It is about recognizing your own response to them. Because when a woman truly wants you, it doesn't create chaos in your life. It creates a quiet sense of clarity, a calm certainty that doesn't need constant reassurance. And this is where science and human nature come together in the most honest way. Because the human brain is wired to seek ease in genuine connection, not confusion, not anxiety, not overthinking. And if you ever find yourself constantly questioning, constantly doubting, constantly trying to decode her behavior, then something is not aligned because real attraction, mature attraction, removes the need for guessing. It replaces noise with consistency, and that consistency becomes your answer. And one of the deepest signs, the one that no one talks about enough, is how she responds to your silence. Because anyone can be present when things are easy, when conversation flows, when moments are light, but a woman who truly wants you does not disappear in your quiet moments. She doesn't fade when there is nothing to gain. Instead, she leans in even more. She checks on you. She creates small bridges to reconnect because your absence is felt, not ignored. And that is something no one can pretend for long because emotional absence only matters when emotional presence has value. And if she values you, she will always find her way back to you. And there was a man in his late 60s who once believed that love had become something distant, something reserved for memories rather than possibilities. He had lived a full life, experienced both joy and disappointment, and at some point, he decided that expecting anything more would only lead to unnecessary pain. So he chose comfort over connection, distance over vulnerability, until one unexpected evening changed everything. He met a woman through a simple introduction, nothing planned, nothing dramatic, and at first it felt ordinary. Just another conversation, polite and respectful. But over the following days, something began to shift. Not loudly, not obviously, but in a way that slowly caught his attention. She would send a message at unexpected times, not to ask for anything, but simply to share a thought. She would remember small details from their conversations, things he himself had forgotten he mentioned. She would laugh in a way that felt genuine, not exaggerated, not forced, and most importantly, she remained present, consistently, without creating confusion, without sending mixed signals. And at first, he resisted the idea that this could mean something, because like many men, he had learned to doubt what felt too simple, too calm, too real. But as time passed, he noticed something even more powerful. Her actions were not changing. They were not fading. They were becoming more natural, more comfortable, more integrated into his daily life. And one day, in a quiet moment, he asked himself a question he had avoided for years. What if this is real? Not because it is intense, but because it is consistent. And that realization changed him. Because for the first time, he understood that attraction at this stage of life is not about proving, not about chasing, not about impressing. It is about recognizing what is already being given and having the courage to accept it. And that brings us to the final and most undeniable sign of all. A woman who truly wants you makes your life feel more peaceful, not more complicated. She becomes a source of ease, not stress, of clarity, not confusion. And this is supported by everything we know about emotional psychology, because the brain associates safety and consistency with long-term bonding. And when those elements are present, attraction doesn't just exist, it deepens, it stabilizes, it becomes something meaningful. And this is why, at your age, you have an advantage that younger men often lack. You have the ability to see patterns, to recognize consistency, to understand behavior beyond surface level excitement. And that is your power, because you no longer need to chase illusions. You can choose reality, and reality always reveals itself through actions, through effort, through presence that doesn't fade with time. And once you truly understand this, you will stop asking the question, does she want me? Because the answer will become obvious, not through words, but through everything she does, again and again. And when you reach that point, something inside you shifts. You become calmer, more confident, more selective, because you realize that your value is not something you need to prove. It is something that is recognized by the right person without force, without pressure, without confusion. And that is the moment where everything changes, not just in how you see women, but in how you see yourself, because you understand that attraction is not about age. It is about presence. It is about emotional connection. It is about the quiet signals that never lie. And when you learn to see those signals clearly, you step into a different kind of life, one where you are no longer chasing attention, but attracting genuine connection simply by being aware, grounded, and present. And that is a power very few men ever fully use. But now, you can. And as you move forward from this now, as you sit with everything you've heard, there is one last layer, quiet, powerful, and often overlooked, that separates the men who keep guessing from the men who truly understand. Because the deepest truth is this: when a woman wants you, it doesn't just show in how she comes closer, it also shows in how she doesn't pull away when things become real, when moments become quiet, when there is nothing to perform, nothing to prove. And this is where everything becomes clear, because attraction that is based on surface fades under pressure, but attraction that is rooted in emotional connection becomes even stronger in stillness. And science explains this through something called emotional regulation and attachment response, where a person who feels safe and interested will move toward connection, not away from it, even when uncertainty appears. And that is why one of the strongest signs a woman wants you is her stability during uncertainty. She doesn't disappear when you take a step back. She doesn't punish you with silence. She doesn't create distance to test your value. Instead, she remains steady, grounded, present, and that presence is not loud. It is not dramatic, but it is consistent. And consistency at your age is everything, because you have already seen what inconsistency looks like. You have already experienced confusion, mixed signals, emotional ups and downs that lead nowhere. And now, you are no longer looking for excitement, you are looking for truth, and truth always shows itself in patterns, not promises. And there was a man once who spent years believing that attraction had to feel intense to be real, that if it wasn't overwhelming, it wasn't meaningful. And because of that belief, he ignored the quiet signals. He overlooked the calm presence of a woman who was always there, always consistent, always genuine. And instead, he chased what felt exciting but unstable, and it cost him time, energy, and peace. Until one day, he found himself sitting across from that same quiet woman he had once underestimated. And in that moment, he noticed something he had never fully allowed himself to see before. She wasn't trying to impress him. She wasn't trying to compete with anyone. She was simply there, present, attentive, steady, and for the first time, he realized that her consistency was not ordinary. It was rare because in a world where people come and go, where attention is temporary and interest fades quickly, someone who remains, someone who continues to show up without confusion, without games, without pressure, is showing something deeper than attraction. They are showing intention, and intention is the foundation of everything real. And as he reflected on their time together, he began to see the truth clearly. She had always been choosing him, not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently, through small actions, through quiet effort, through a presence that never needed to announce itself. And in that realization, something shifted inside him, because he understood that he had been looking for the wrong signals all along. He had been waiting for intensity when he should have been recognizing consistency, and that is the lesson most men learn too late. But you don't have to, because now you can see it, you can feel it, you can recognize it in real time. And when you do, something powerful happens. You stop chasing what is unclear, and you start valuing what is steady, what is real, what is proven through time. And that is where your true strength lies, not in trying to win someone over, but in recognizing when someone has already chosen you through their actions. And once you understand this, you begin to move differently. You become calmer, more patient, more aware, because you are no longer reacting to words. You are observing behavior, and behavior never lies. And this awareness protects your energy. It protects your time. It protects your peace, because you are no longer investing in uncertainty. You are responding to clarity, and clarity is the greatest gift you can have at this stage of life, because it allows you to focus on what truly matters: meaningful connection, emotional stability, and mutual respect. And here's the final truth, the one that brings everything together. When a woman truly wants you, she makes your life feel easier, not harder. She adds to your peace, not your confusion. She brings clarity, not doubt. And this is not just philosophy, it is psychology, because the human mind naturally seeks harmony in genuine connection. And when that harmony is present, everything flows without force, without struggle, without the need to constantly question what is real. And once you experience that kind of connection, you will never again confuse attention with intention or excitement with consistency, because you will know deeply and clearly what real attraction feels like, and more importantly, what it does. And that understanding changes everything. It changes how you choose, how you respond, how you value yourself, because you realize that your role is not to chase, but to recognize, not to prove, but to receive what is already being shown to you. And that is where your power truly begins, in awareness, in patience, in the ability to see beyond surface-level signals and understand the deeper patterns that reveal the truth. And once you carry this with you, you will never again find yourself lost in confusion, because you will always return to one simple principle. If she wants you, you will see it, you will feel it, and most importantly, you will experience it consistently, without doubt, without games, without uncertainty. And that is something no one can fake, no one can hide, and no one can take away once you understand it. Thank you for staying until the end, and thank you for watching.